Hi everybody, I'm Samantha Barry. I'm the editor-in-chief at Glamour. And I always, say that for the last couple of years that I've been at Glamour, that like March is my Super Bowl because it's Women's Month. This year, Super Bowl was my Super Bowl, and we beat every other title in the building on our Super Bowl coverage, thanks to Taylor Swift. It's a very good month to be here to celebrate women, and I think we couldn't have a more brilliant group of women that are disruptors in every industry that they're in. We're going to talk to them about the disruption that they've been doing, whether that is to their own career, whether that is to industries they've worked in, whether that is to the norm that's expected. We're going to talk a lot. And while these women are in very different industries, even in the conversations we've had before this, the common thread that runs through a lot of their careers and jobs, I think you'll get a lot out of.
I think that the physical embodiment of disruption makes waves. So I say that we make waves, and that's probably going to make folks uncomfortable, and they're just going to have to learn how to swim.
Look, all of us are disruptors. Samantha Barry is a disruptor.
Yeah.
But to me, a disruptor looks for trouble, finds it, and fixes it. And so I work for a 155-year-old bank. And so the trouble that I found was Black women are starting businesses faster than any other demographic in the United States. If you have that image of the guy with the hoodie in the garage, replace it with a woman and replace it with a Black woman. That's the image. However, the trouble that we saw is that 3 years after founding that business, 97% of those businesses had failed. And she was in a worse position as if she had not started the business. She borrowed from her good friend who said, I back you. If she had a 401k, she dipped into that 401k. She'd maxed out her credit card. And so we thought, if we could, as Goldman Sachs, step into that space and take that entrepreneur who's got the plan, who's got the grit, who's got the hard work, and find a way to inject her with the education, the access to capital, and the network to change that 97% fail rate to a 97% success rate. And so that's what it looks like. So we're on that mission right now. So when I left Goldman an hour ago to come here, I left 150 solopreneurs from 30 different states in the United States that we have flown in that are right now at the firm learning how to change that. I'd advise more women to be transactional. And we tend to be sort of friends and family, and that's all great, but ask for it, right? And so I have so many people who it takes a long time, they've known someone for a very long time, and to sort of ask for the business, ask for the transaction. The guys are doing it. So ask for it, be transactional, it's perfectly fine. And then you can go back to chatting about all the other stuff, but make the ask. There are always going to be detractors, haters, and everything else. You've got to have this core of being your first believer, staunch. And I'm sure every woman here, you have to be that person.
You are the first line in defense on how the world sees you. And if you're getting up, and we all have self-doubt, we all have but if even just that saying out loud that you're a great person or you're doing a good job, it's really healing and you can walk into the world you walk into the world with maybe a little bit more of a kick in your step.
That 3-part audit gave me a little bit of confidence in trying to even just understand what the puzzle pieces were, right? So if you're in that stage, physical health, financial health, spiritual dreamscaping, I vision boarded a lot at the time. I highly recommend journaling, vision boarding as tools in the toolkit. But yeah, those are the things I used for that pivot.
Before I even knew it was going to be a clean hair care brand, I knew I wanted to create something that would put the Hispanic audience on the world map. So in the United States, we account for nearly 20% of the population. And when it comes to beauty, we're obsessed. And don't even let me get started on hair care. We spend more than 46% more on hair care products than the average consumer, yet have little to no representation on the beauty shelves. So I thought it was interesting how women were really driving the beauty industry, yet we're not benefiting from it. And speaking of venture funding, less than 2% of venture funding goes to women, but women actually control about 80% of the spending power in this country. So we actually do have the power to change those dynamics. And I think that's why the initiative that Glamour has is so important. And we really lean heavily into that storytelling of why it matters. And as a consumer, I personally love buying from female-founded brands because I know that they're actually solving the real problem because they're usually the customer themselves. That's really where the shift in power, I think, is so powerful, where we're finally starting to see products that are created with women in mind because they were created with women at the top.
People now, I think you buy into a product because of the story behind it, because of who's behind the brand. You know, what does the brand mean to you and what does it say? So I think it's always really been a part, and for me it's also to show other women who might look like me that they can do it too.
The number one most important conversation you will ever have is the one in between your ears. Hopefully we're widening the aperture and democratizing who feels they are able to move their bodies in all different types of spaces in all different types of ways. That's certainly one of the missions of Peloton.
Being a non-conformist and just being authentically yourself, people start to appreciate that, and it sets you apart from others as well, because they can see that you're just authentically being you.
The only thing you can do better than anyone else is be yourself. And I actually remember when I was going through my fundraising process, I was like, instead of showing up in a suit that I feel uncomfortable in and that I'm trying to like mimic how they dress, if I just show up as myself, I'm gonna leave much more of an impression. And the reality is that the investors were more fascinated by this like fashion persona that just came in through the door. Like that looked like a different meeting. They're most of their meetings, and guess what? That's the meeting they remember. So I think we can only be best at being truly ourselves.
I think sometimes to Amelia, I'm like trying to explain who the glamour woman is, and she's like, she's this woman. She can sometimes get up and want to change the world, and then other times she just wants to buy a lipstick. Like that can exist within the same person. But I love that. Just that you are different people, and we can hold lots of different things.
I was so focused on what I was eating and the ingredients going inside my body. And I learned pretty quickly when exploring the market that there's no regulatory requirement to put any ingredients on wine. And to me, that was fascinating with our demographic and myself really caring so much. And in wine in particular, there was just no focus on that, on clean, organic, transparent ingredients. And so for me, our mission is to elevate the single-serve wine experience while also creating a meaningful impact in the communities around us. And I always start with that story, which is, I think, like so relatable. So we really try to be unique in that storytelling, and it's a part of my everyday and how I communicate.
The thread through it all, very different media companies, was always, I just love telling stories. And that was my North Star. No matter what I do after this, it's going to be anchored in stories. I think having, and when you talk about wellness, I think that like there's a North Star for everybody on this panel.
I encourage folks to write down for yourself what a yes even looks like. Like we're so ambitious for the thing and the next thing and the achievement and the job and the connection and the intro. It's like if so-and-so picks up the phone today, am I ready? Have I sharpened my toolkit? What am I offering them? What does that look like? You walk into this elevator right now and XYZ person is standing there. You have 26 seconds. What are you gonna do with it? So those are the things that I would love us to be armed with, because it's much more of an internal preparedness and an internal conversation.
Thank you so much. We've totally blown through your lunch break. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
you all. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
So fun.